All right, guys, how's it going? Today, fishing California with EBA. We're going to talk all about, fishing California, and we're going to talk about San Pablo Reservoir, San Pablo Lake. We're going to talk about bass fishing, trout fishing, catfishing, but, we're going to talk about how to fish this lake. We're going to talk about this fishery. We're going to start off mainly focusing on the bass as far as this fishery is concerned. There's a lot of bass. It's stacked with largemouth. So, what works, what doesn't work, my experience, personal experience, what I can tell you is creature baits work fairly well. Matter of fact, they're really, really effective. They're consistent and they catch quality fish. An average fish there is, I'd say probably 3 pounds. So you got a highly, you get good size for your average fish at this lake. You basically get to flip or pitch or cast or hop or whatever you want to do with that creature bait. You can get it in anything. You can skip it under a dock. You can do whatever you want, and it gets bit. So that's number one would be a creature bait. And number two there for bass would be a jig and a pig, some kind of a skirted jig with a creature bait trailer. A lot of times cut that trailer in half or a third or something, downsize it to make the more compact profile. This allows the bass to get that bait in its mouth a little bit better, a little bit easier. Just improving your hookup ratio by making that bait more compact. So, what's important here for these two baits is, that they're both similar, but they're both a little different. Sometimes you can get away with that skirted jig by let's just say swimming it back or dragging it and doing things, and that skirts action alone is going to trigger a strike, trigger a bite, trigger some kind of a so that right there, a lot of times just having that skirt is helpful. But that whole presentation, I like to do 15-pound fluorocarbon. I like to do 20-pound, 30-pound straight braid, sometimes even 40-pound braid. You get away with it. I mean, that lake, the water clarity's lower. So, when you're not doing that, what do you do? A soft plastic swim bait or a hard minnow bait, something you can cast and wind back, something you can jerk around, something you can pop around, something you can, pause or change your variable cadence at any moment. So that's really good. Some kind of a jerk bait, a swim bait, and really, if you really want to narrow it down, well, let's just narrow it down to one more bait so we don't go crazy here. But one more bait, drop shot, because it gets bit, not because it's crazy and, like it's the brand new thing. Drop shot's really old. They've been doing it a long time. They just didn't call it drop shotting back in the day before it was known as drop shotting. So, get a drop shot, get yourself a 4 or 5 inch worm, curly tail, straight tail. Generally, one's going to be really productive and one's not going to be. I prefer that curly tail in the warmer months of the year and the straight tail in the colder months of the year. And so we've kind of covered the bass category. I want to make sure we talk about colors. So purples and browns, blacks and browns, reds and blacks, blacks and blues, brown and red, green and purple, green and blue. These type of combinations that I just mentioned, these are going to be really productive for you in any of the categories I just mentioned. So that's bass fishing. If you guys are going out to San Pablo, you just want to catch some catfish, catfishing is a little bit, easier. You're just going to want to find a cove. You're just going to want to find an area where there's like some little bit of deeper water, that then there's a transition. You've got a shallow flat or a shallow cove, some type of a shallow area that's adjacent to a deep water area. And a lot of times, the catfish, it's real easy to go from that deep water to that shallow water. I tend to do really well fishing, like I just said, coves and flats. And chicken liver works really well for a lot of the small catfish. Mackerel does not work very well. Stuff like, your night crawlers is going to catch one here and there. It's going to catch a little bit of everything here and there, right? That's what a night crawler kind of is. It's a do all anything, but you never really get consistency with what you're catching a lot of times. So, another thing for catfish is, a lot of these dough baits, and I would recommend to stay away from those. Most of the time, they're not that effective. You could throw a hot dog out there and catch a catfish, and you could throw bacon out there and catch catfish, actually, fairly productive, consistently and productively, catch catfish there on those baits. But it doesn't seem like, anchovies work very well or mackerel works very well. It doesn't seem like squid works very well or anything like that. Trout guts, surprisingly, but not surprisingly, right? Let's just call it chicken liver. They work really well. So get out there and put that on the hook, and you're looking at big catfish. You're not looking at numbers. You might get 1, 2 bites a night. You might get more. But one night I got 412s. Me and my brother picked up probably like 5, 6 catfish that were, pushing 10 plus at this lake. So, I mean, this is a great lake for catfishing, and there's, variety of other fish in this lake like carp. But today we're going to talk about one more species. We're going to talk about trout. We're going to talk about how to fish for trout here, because trout fishing is a big deal, but it's also like, I'm going to break it down. It's a seasonal thing. So fall, spring, winter, there's trout fishing. In the summertime, you got to go somewhere else. You just got to go higher up, or you just got to change your target. So species. So, the trout at this lake can be phenomenal fall, spring, winter. I prefer December through February. That's going to be really the pinnacle of that trout fishing. There's going to be abundance of trout in there, and it's going to be a lot of fish. There's going to be a lot of activity. The water temps just generally get really good. They get cold. They get just right for them trout. And a lot of times you get rain at that time of the year when they're active, and this creates a lot of oxygenates the water, and a lot of these lakes up San Pablo and a lot of lakes, they just don't get as much run off. They don't get a lot of inlets, creeks. They don't have a lot of fresh water coming in. So having that is like a really big factor. So trout fishing at San Pablo, what do you do? I would stay close to where they plant. I would stay close, the main area, on the main side of the lake, stay close to where they plant. Generally go west or go east a little bit, and those fish will reside close to where they were planted. These are planted fish. Keep in mind, they do spread out over time, but for the most part, you really want to focus in on where they're stacked up, and they're stacked up where they're put in. So you're going to want to focus on power baits. You're going to want to focus on mice tails, cast masters, and all that stuff. But you're really going to want to focus on is garlic power bait. For some reason, there seems to be really productive. I've done really well with just white formula, the original white formula, Berkeley power bait, nothing with any scent. And that did really well for us. Power eggs are kind of a hit and miss. Mice tails, generally, I like white mice tails, or I like an orange, or those are really my favorite for those. And as far as cast masters, try to get something with some gold in it, silver and gold, or just straight gold. And for this lake, guys, go out there for this fishery and give it your all. I mean, there's big bass, there's big catfish, big fish in general. You got big carp, big trout. There's all kinds of sunfish. So get out there, get some fish. If you guys have any questions, go ahead, ask the questions. Just put them down there. I'm going to get back to you as soon as I can. Anything I forgot, I'm just trying to get you guys on more fish consistently, bigger fish, and hopefully, make your experience the next time out a lot better. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.